I was born in a small house in a small village in England. The story goes my arrival was announced by nothing less than the heavens themselves. There, that's me.
He's so small. We'll name him Isaac. Isaac Newton.
I had a pretty good set of lungs, huh? Now, I know what you're thinking. This can't be the real Isaac Newton. The bright one? The one with the apple? You're right, I'm not him. I'm not even related to him. My dad just happened to have the same last name, that's all. Humphrey Newton. Him and Mom named me Isaac after the famous one. Because my dad knew him really well. He worked for him. Just like me, the first and famous Sir Isaac Newton was born with a comet flying over. And this is his story. My dad always says the comet was an auspicious omen because this baby would grow up to change the way the whole world thought about the universe, comets and all. Auspicious, that's a fancy word for lucky. My dad says he's still waiting to find out whether my comet was auspicious or not. Isaac's father had died 3 months before he was born. Poor Isaac was so puny, everyone was afraid he wouldn't make it. But Isaac surprised them and pulled through. Isaac's mother remarried a wealthy farmer when he was just 3 years old. She went off to live with her new family, and Isaac was left behind to live with his grandparents.
Get up! Come on! Go, come on!
Poor little kid. My dad said he didn't really trust a living soul from that day on. It was a lonely life, but fortunately, Isaac liked his own company. Creative and curious, he loved building things. Weird mechanical gizmos. Isaac found his own inventions much more interesting than playing with other children.
Isaac, why don't you go out and play?
He built sundials and water clocks, and his favorite, kites.
Kites are for babies.
Newton?
Master Stokes! Isaac was a bit of a misfit. Standing up to that bully changed his life. Nothing could stop him now. He went from the very bottom of his class at King's School in Grantham to the top. Isaac was headed for Cambridge, but his mother's rich old husband died, and he had to stay home and help her out on the huge farm she'd inherited.
Isaac, look!
Hey! 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 Hey, come back here! Hey!
Yes, sir. Isaac was a big help to his mother on the farm. So, it must have been a pretty hard decision for her to send her son away to the great college of Cambridge.
Yeah! Get up there, ho! Thorpe!
Isaac Newton left Grantham in 1660, a young man in search of his future, and came home an educated Cambridge University professor. This is where my father makes his entrance. Just like Isaac, my father loved kites.
Sails like a bird.
Eat bog pie, Simon.
You better watch what you say to me, Humphrey Newton.
Why?
My father's got the biggest farm around here, that's why. It'll be mine someday.
My condolences.
What's that mean?
Look it up. The dictionary's your friend.
Yeah? You're so smart?
Yeah, and that's my ticket out of here. You'll be stuck in the bog the rest of your life.
Yes, Master Stokes?
You know the punishment for fighting on school grounds. Isaac? Isaac Newton! Back from Cambridge. Not expelled, I hope.
No, actually, just a visit.
And did you bring anything back to show for your efforts?
A bachelor and a master's of arts. They made me professor of mathematics.
Good boy. Humphrey, come here. Humphrey Newton. I'd like you to meet Isaac Newton. 2 Newtons. Fancy that. Isaac's one of my old students, making his name at Cambridge. A genius, mathematics and science. I take no credit. Mind you, this boy holds his own, too. This is Humphrey's last week at school. He's graduating. Gets along with the other boys about as well as you did, Isaac. Oh, pity.
I can fix it.
Is it yours?
Made it myself.
Would he be interested in a job?
Well, I suppose. Humphrey is a wonderful student when he doesn't get sidetracked. What do you think, boy? Boy? See what I mean, Isaac? Isaac?
Isaac. Isaac Newton? How wonderful to see you.
Oh, yes. How nice to, Miss...
You remember my stepdaughter, Catherine?
You haven't changed a bit.
Catherine. How wonderful. You have changed. For the good. Better, I mean. Not that you weren't always, fine.
And my niece, Clara. I don't believe you've met.
No, no.
Isaac has just received his bachelor's degree.
Master's, actually.
Well, let's hope he doesn't remain a bachelor forever. Catherine is still single, you know.
Father?
An auspicious day for my dad, he would say later. And so began his apprenticeship with the great Isaac Newton.
What do you mean you don't know who Kepler is? Impossible. He discovered the relationship between the speed of a planet's movement in the sky and its distance from the sun. The closer a planet is to the sun, the faster it moves.
And the further away it is from the sun, the slower it moves.
My father was pretty quick.
Never state the obvious to me. Galileo recorded the movement of the planets, too. He couldn't figure out how it worked. There must be a mathematical explanation for it. I'm going to find it. I'll create the mathematics to do it if I have to. In my mind, the universe must work like a gigantic clock. The question is, what keeps it ticking? And more important, why? Don't you agree?
Oh. I guess. Absolutely.
Isaac rattled off theories about the universe as fast as my father could write them down. In fact, my father seemed to be a true inspiration to the scientist. Everyone who hasn't been living in a cave has heard the famous story of Sir Isaac and the apple. Well, if it weren't for my dad, the word gravity wouldn't even be in the English language.
If we accept the theory that the planets do circle the sun in an elliptical orbit, we have to ask the question, why? What keeps them moving in that pattern?
Why?
Take notes, Humphrey. Humphrey, do you realize what just happened?
Yes. I just smashed my head into this tree.
Do it again.
You won't? Okay, but...
Shake the limb. There. Another one. And do you know why it fell?
Yes, I think I loosened the
No.
ball.
The apple fell because the earth attracted it.
The earth attracted the apple. Maybe I should have a look at that bump on your head.
Think about it. Maybe the moon falls in the sky like an object falls on the earth. What if one and the same force pulls the apple to the earth and keeps the moon in its orbit?
Sounds like a bit of a stretch to me.
Yoo-hoo!
Let's go. We've a lot to do.
You see? There's no point in chasing either of the Newton boys.
Well, just because Isaac hasn't called on you. And I'm not chasing anyone.
They may not be related, but they're cut from the same cloth.
Oh, come on. Come on!
The force which brought the apple from the tree to the ground can't just stop a certain distance from the earth. It must extend higher. Why not as high as to the moon? Did you get all that?
Yoo-hoo! Anybody hungry? We'd be pleased if you'd join us.
Be so forward.
Yes. So this force
Do you think they'll come over?
must extend higher. I said that. Fine. Then I believe the circular orbit of the moon and the fall of the apple must be the result of the same force. I'll call it gravity.
Aren't you hungry?
Perhaps every object in the universe attracts every other object. That's it. Humphrey, take that. Humphrey!
Always the dedicated scientist. My father went out of his way to prove Newton's latest theory, and discovered that some objects in the universe are more attractive than others. Look at the two of them. Isn't that disgusting?
Isaac, join us?
Isaac was suddenly anxious to be back in Cambridge. His new assistant was expected to follow. My dad had to choose, true love or the chance to be an educated man, far away from the farm life he'd always hated. It was a tough call, but his father, my granddad, helped him make it.
Over my dead body.
Mr. Newton,
Look, you stay out of this.
you're like some evil magician trying to steal my son's mind. You don't think this life is good enough for you. Is that it?
You're close.
Humphrey agreed to be my assistant. This is part of the job. Mr. Newton, this is the age of reason. Working with your head is just as important as working with your hands.
Working with your hands keeps a roof over your head and food in your belly. Ugh! It's just an attack. I'm all right. I don't need anyone to help me. Oh, go off. Leave me. Oh,
Dad.
what about my future? Who's going to take care of you when I'm gone? Oh, pay the bills. Oh, it won't be long now.
I'll pay your son a good salary.
How much?
Oh, Humphrey, I'm so proud of you.
Another law of nature. Everything has its price. But my dad wondered if it was too high a price to pay.
There's a coach leaving in 2 hours. I think we can still make it.
Come here.
So, you're going to Cambridge?
Yes, I have to return.
It's an opportunity for me. I'm gonna make something of myself.
But when will I see you again? I thought we had an arrangement.
An arrangement?
An arrangement.
Bet you'll hardly even recognize me when I get back.
If I'm even here to see you.
Where else would you be?
Humphrey Newton, do you think you're the only planet in the universe that's moving and the rest of us are just standing still?
No, but
You gave me reason to believe that...
Yes, but I suppose I did. And I do hold you in the very highest esteem.
Good luck.
Clara, will you?
Will I... what?
Will you wait for me?
Wait for you.
I will come back.
You'll forget all about me.
Never. I promise. So will you?
Well, you'll just have to wait and see, won't you?
I'll wait for you.
Yes. Fine.
With their affairs in order, my father and Isaac went off to Cambridge. From the moment they arrived, it was obvious to my father just how esteemed Isaac was by his peers at Cambridge.
Oh, no. Look who's back. Hey, Newton. Hey, I'm talking to you.
Pretty nice place. My father always said his days at Cambridge were some of his happiest and most peaceful.
Get out!
Crazy saloon. Just when any normal human being is up and about, he's sleeping, sitting in a chair. Well, I woke him up, I did, and he attacked me. You heard him. You're my witness. It's a wonder I stay on.
Good morning.
Look at the shadows. It's 10 o'clock. I'm late. Gather my books. I'm late for the lecture. I'll need this. And this. And this. And this.
What are these for?
Lecture.
Who's giving it?
Hi.
My father thrived in the calm, orderly world of academia.
I've deduced after much calculation that gravity is a force that acts on all things from the smallest to the largest. But the force between any two objects depends upon their masses and the distance between them. The moon was twice as heavy.
Isaac would have been lost without my father's help.
It exerts on the earth.
Without his assistance, the famous series of lectures on the universal laws of nature might have never been given.
Twice the mass equals twice the force. If the moon were half the distance from the Earth, the gravitational force would be 4 times as large. This is because the force depends upon the square of the distance. That'll be all for today.
In no time at all, Isaac's lectures were legendary.
Are all your lectures this well attended?
A great deal of the students here have more to do than learn. However, I'm paid to lecture, so I do.
Isaac was driven to answer the questions posed by the natural world around him. He worked nonstop, day and night, 7 days a week. He didn't seem to need sleep or food. My father couldn't decide whether his boss was a freak or a force of nature. Isaac kept coming back to the question that no scientist before him had ever solved. Could the invisible force of gravity be the force that sets the clockwork of the universe into motion?
Half the distance equals 4 times the force. The gravitational force equals a constant multiplied by mass 1, multiplied by mass 2, divided by the distance between the masses squared. Brilliant. But the mathematics make no sense. What did you do? Make it up? As a matter of fact, I invented it. And it works.
You invented it?
Yes. Right on time. Record it in the log.
You're expecting it?
I predicted it, mathematically.
Oh, really?
So you laugh at me too. Fine, I'm used to it.
I'm not laughing at you. It's just sometimes you say these preposterous things out of thin air.
Not thin air.
All right, I believe you. Relax.
Mind you, I knew intuitively it was true, but mathematics is the only way to prove it.
This new law of yours, the equation about gravity, does it really work?
Of course it does.
When are you going to publish your findings?
Never. Why should I beg for criticism from fools?
That's insane. What if Galileo hadn't published, or Copernicus? How would you have learned from them?
Copernicus was so afraid of unpleasant consequences, he didn't publish anything until he was on his deathbed. Galileo published his theories while he was still breathing, and look what happened to him. Herded in front of the Inquisition, forced to deny all his views, barely survived being burned alive. No, sir. Not for me.
This day and age, there's no Inquisition to be afraid of.
Yes, there is. The Inquisition of my so-called peers. You heard that imbecile at my lecture this afternoon? Robert Hooke, the secretary of the Royal Society. He's always out to slander me.
Why?
I published theories on light, on mirrors and telescopes. Hooke had the nerve to accuse me of stealing ideas from him, as though I would steal ideas from a moron. I don't intend to give anyone another chance to make a laughingstock of me.
But what good is it to make discoveries and then keep them to yourself? The world has to know.
Over my dead body.
My father did what any self-respecting apprentice would do. He wrote to Clara bitterly complaining of his long hours and how every day he missed her more and more. And he supplied the Royal Society with the hint of the discoveries Newton was making to whet their appetites. And sure enough, the fish took the bait. And so, my father found himself in the city of London.
I don't know how or why I let you talk me into this.
You have to learn to trust people. You'll find that most human beings are charitable and reasonable.
The Royal Society, the famous assembly of all the brightest and best scientists in all of England. Sir Christopher Wren, the official architect of the City of London. John Flamsteed, the royal astronomer. Edmund Halley, who would soon have a certain comet named after him. My father said he couldn't believe his eyes.
Newton. Hook. Are you still the ringmaster of this circus? So you're here to expound on your great discovery, Newton. Something about an apple. I can't wait to find the wormholes in it. Like the apple falling from the tree, the moon falls like any object on Earth. If the moon did not constantly fall towards the Earth, then it would move in a straight line and fly off at a tangent to its orbit. We'll call this the law of universal gravitation. Everything in the universe attracts everything else.
Now that's one of Newton's laws my father could relate to.
If the distance between the Earth and the Moon were twice as far, the gravitational pull between them would be 1/4 as great. The gravitational force between two bodies is calculated by what I call the inverse square law. In other words, the force attracting planets to the sun decreases with the square of their distance from the sun. Mathematically, this theory is represented by the equation where F is the gravitational force, capital M and lowercase m are the two masses. That is all.
Absolute rubbish. You're wrong, once again. He thinks he can create his own mathematics to prove his own ridiculous theories. It is so because I say it is so.
It can't be.
Gentlemen! I think we have to acknowledge the basic brilliance of this theory of a universal force called gravity.
Who did you steal this malarkey from, Newton?
Well, I, for one, would like to hear more about these findings.
And I, for one, would like to challenge this man to prove what he has wasted all our time talking about.
Isaac?
Hey, get your egg.
Isaac?
Humphrey, my boy. That is the fellow we were looking for. Perhaps we could take you out for a bit of a night in the town.
Yes, sir.
So, my father found himself in the best cafe in London with the royal architect, Sir Christopher Wren, and the wealthy man about town, scientist Edmund Halley. Not bad for a farm boy from Woolsthorpe.
What do you think?
It's cold. It's really cold.
That's why it's called ice cream. It melts. It's quite delicious.
Try some of this to warm you up.
My teeth. I think they're gonna fall out. What is this?
Coffee. It's brand new from the New World. More coffee all around, sir? And as much chocolate as this young man can consume.
Yes, sir. Right away, sir.
Cheers. This stuff's amazing.
Great for your nerves.
Have a chocolate.
Oh, thank you.
Have two. It's the cornerstone of my bearing wall.
Sorry.
So, Humphrey, what is Mr. Newton up to these days? What is he working on?
Lots of things. Lectures, light, gravity, orbits.
Yes, orbits. He started to write an equation on the board today, but he didn't finish it.
You see, we must confess, Humphrey, that although our observations show that the planets travel in an ellipse around the sun, so far each of us has tried and failed to provide mathematical proof of the action.
I have a gentleman's proposition. The first one of us to come up with mathematical proof that the planets travel in an elliptical orbit will get a prize. You're on.
I'll provide the prize myself. A book worth 40 shillings.
And we may use any means to get the formula.
Any means?
Any means.
Every man for himself.
Agreed.
Agreed.
Agreed?
Agreed.
You may just as well give me the book now. I'm as close as this.
Are you talking about the inverse square law? I've seen the proof with my own 2 eyes.
Have another chocolate, Humphrey.
My master, my teacher, my good friend, Isaac Newton, has already made the calculation and formulated a theory.
No wonder. The man's made a habit of stealing my work.
How dare you, sir?
My father stood up for Newton's honor. At least he would have, if he could have.
Told them what?
Couldn't help it. It was the chocolate speaking. Oh, stop the coach.
Stop the coach! Again!
Yet again, my father was responsible for furthering Isaac's career. Because the honorable men of the Royal Society had taken his coffee craze claims seriously, their race to the right formula had begun. They weren't even close. Back at Cambridge, my father's heart was no longer in his work. More than ever, he longed for home.
What's the matter with you? Are you ill?
She's never written to me.
Who?
Clara. I think I'm in love. Don't you miss Catherine?
No. That is, I don't think about her. Scientists don't have time to fall in love.
Why me, then? Am I not a scientist?
What do you think?
I don't know. I'll never be as smart or as clever as you. I don't have your mind.
You're smart enough. Right now, you're trying to grasp numbers and equations and theories. That's just the surface. There's more to science than that. I hope I've taught you that at least.
Science is thought, and the connections you make with those thoughts. It's seeing the extraordinary in the ordinary. It's the moment of clarity in the middle of a muddle.
I could certainly use some clarity in the muddle right now. Yoo-hoo! Mr. Njutn, an urgent letter for the young man. My father's very ill. I have to return to Wolfslort.
My dad always says that life works in mysterious ways. His father's health gave him the excuse he needed to go home. And though it wasn't the happiest of reasons to be back in Woolsthorpe,
Came as soon as I
couldn't
could.
help hoping that the one other person he longed to see would be there. She wasn't.
Blast. Why can't people leave me alone? Mrs. Billings, get that. Show him out.
I've come a long way to see you, Isaac.
Nobody asked you to.
I'll leave you to your work, but first I must ask you one question.
Give me a reason on this earth why I should answer you.
To beat Hook at his own game.
You're not gonna die.
No, my son. I'm breathing my last. Promise you'll stay. You have to look after your mother. Swear.
I swear.
Let me rest.
My father was concerned about his father and very confused about what to do with his own life. Isaac had his own concerns.
Blast, Humphrey. Where did I put my notes? I can't find them. Double blast. He took them with him.
Well, thank you all the same. Sorry to disturb you.
Robbers, right in the parlor. I chased them out. They had some of your papers.
What?
I grabbed what I could.
What was you?
Did they get the formula?
Just some early notes, mostly unreadable.
Hook will win.
Win what?
We had a bit of a wager.
Hook will win nothing. We must find Humphrey.
Well, they'll see us go.
No, they won't.
This just doesn't make sense.
Oh no. Oh no!
Stop! Wait, come back!
And so, Isaac Newton was on his way back to his hometown of Woolsthorpe, and Hook and Wren were left behind to work on the formula on their own.
So the force is proportional to the product of the planet's masses and inversely proportional to the square of the distance between them. Of course.
Of course.
Where F is the gravitational force, M and M the two masses, D the distance between them,
And G is the gravitational constant.
You've done it. You've done it. Hook will be green with jealousy.
I'm so glad you're here. Your father seems much better already. Oh, yes, I forgot. Clara said to say hello.
Did she say anything else?
No, I believe she's engaged to be married. There's a party today at Mr. Stokes' house.
When the stories of what followed that day became family history, it was never really clear what role my grandmother played in the unfolding events. Let's just say she gave my father a push in the right direction, when he needed it.
What a lovely couple. I'm sure they'll be very happy together.
Me?
Humphrey, what are you doing here? It's been so long, I'd almost forgotten you. Oh, you know Simon, don't you? We're cool, Perp. What are you doing? Have you lost your mind?
How did you do this? I mean, there's no math I know that can calculate bodies in motion.
There is now. I've created a new mathematics. It's called calculus.
Cool off, Humphrey.
Eat dog pie, Simon.
Stop it, both of you. No, no. Humphrey! Stop it!
All right.
It's a way of dealing with problems involving quantities that change continuously. It's amazing. You have to make the rules, not follow them.
isn't that your assistant? Humphrey?
Stop it, both of you, stop!
Write this down.
I beg your pardon?
Make notes. Observe. When no force acts on an object, it will remain in a state of rest. A force acting on a stationary object sets it moving. The object accelerates in the direction in which the force is acting. If an object is pushed or pulled, it will push or pull to an equal extent in the opposite direction.
What should I call all this?
The laws of motion.
How dare you ruin my engagement party? Your party?
Your party?
Isaac. Ah, how wonderful to see you. It's been a while.
I get so involved in things, and next thing I know,
It's all right. I understand.
So you're engaged?
Yes, I am. To an attorney. He's very nice.
Well, I'm sorry. That is, I'm not sorry. It's wonderful for you. All the best. Congratulations.
Thank you. I couldn't wait forever, Isaac.
You're not engaged to Simon?
No.
Oh, I thought... That is, I heard that,
Humphrey?
What?
I have to publish my discoveries before that blasted hook beats me to it.
And so, Isaac and my father returned to Cambridge. They worked night and day. Isaac's laws of motion and theories of universal gravitation were finally published. The book was called Principia Mathematica. I think that's how it's pronounced. My dad says it's one of the greatest contributions in the history of science.
There. It's done. Now I'll go hide in a cave until the criticism dies down.
no one will dare criticize truth.
I wish I had your faith in human nature. Thank you for all your help. I couldn't have done it without you. There's a space open for a junior lecturer. I've recommended you for it.
I'm honored. I'm sorry I'm not as enthusiastic as you'd like me to be. I'm still not sure whether I'm cut out to be a scientist.
Have I set such a poor example?
No, it's just, I'm not the type, I guess, who can stick to one thing the way you do.
At the expense of everything else.
No. I mean, yes. I can't imagine my life being only the pursuit of science. There's so much I want to do.
I realize I've given things up. I've had to make decisions and sacrifices that I regret very much. But for me, science is my passion and my obsession. Science has a magnificent order to it. Something majestic, almost beyond comprehension. Something as hard to catch hold of as the tail of a comet. Now, I'm sure if I were to to face the whole matter truthfully, perhaps I would admit that I hide behind it sometimes. Science makes a good shield from the realities of day-to-day life. I'm not good at normal, everyday life. I never have been. But you are. You have choices that I wasn't capable of making. You've got to do what's right for you. And remember, there are more ways than one to practice science.
I'm proud to be a small part of this publication. For the first time in history, a complete scientific explanation of the basic forces in nature has been proposed and proven. For this, we all congratulate him. I give you Isaac Newton. I think Mr. Hook has a few words to say, don't you?
I concede that Mr. Newton has won a small wager, and I present him with this.
I do not know how I appear to the world, but I've really been like a boy playing on the seashore, finding a smoother pebble or a prettier shell than ordinary, while the great ocean of truth lay undiscovered before me. I'm a friend of Plato. I'm a friend of Aristotle and Copernicus and Galileo. I owe everything I have ever done to my unique luck in standing on the shoulders of those giants, and to the loyalty of a small few who have had the patience to push me in the right direction.
My father made his decision, and it wasn't to be a junior lecturer at Cambridge. And so my mother and father got hitched. My grandfather made a remarkable recovery, and a good time was had by all. I suppose that's just about where my story began, and so that's where it should end. My father always remembered what Isaac had told him. There's more than one way to practice science.
Well, son, why did that apple fall? And what are the principles governing its motion? The class is waiting to hear your answer.
Don't laugh. How would you like it if your father was a school teacher?